Hello and welcome to Ordinary Extraordinary. I'm your host, Karen O'Sullivan. This is a podcast where we meet people living unique, inspiring lives. People who remind us that extraordinary stories often come from the most unexpected places. Today's guest is someone many of you may have seen bringing smiles to the streets of Cork and far beyond as well. Known as Aaron the Balloon Man, Aaron Lewis has built a life through creativity, connection, and courage, transforming something as simple as a balloon into moments of absolute magic. Originally raised in the northeast of England by his Sligo-born grandmother, Aaron has called Cork home for over 20 years. He's not just a master balloon artist, but also a magician, a storyteller, an author, and a biographer, as well as a photographer. Aaron, you're very, very welcome to this week's episode of Ordinary Extraordinary. So,
thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Thanks a million. You're very
Thank you so much, Karen. It's an honor to be invited to your podcast. I remember seeing you a few weeks ago in the Marina Market, and then when I got the message from you saying, would you like to be on the podcast, I was quite honored, I was like, oh, that's really cool. As I was saying to you in the intro, sometimes it's good to have like a project that's finished or a project that you're working on when you go on a podcast. But I have some projects I will go into, but also, it's a great opportunity. I love to just share stories and tell a little bit about my history as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Aaron, definitely. And for anybody listening who mightn't have come across you before, although I'm sure a lot of people at this stage will meet and greet you randomly in random places on the streets, you're definitely, I would like to say you're famous anyway, and definitely spreading that amazing, positive, good energy. So
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for people who don't know you yet, I suppose if we do a deep dive first, sure. It's your name now. And I know the way it's written, historically, I would have said Aaron. Yeah. It's Aaron. Is there any particular reason for the
pronunciation? It's an interesting one. So in the quick chat we had before that we went live, my mum was going to call me Nicholas after my great grandfather on my grandfather's side, and she's turned the radio on one day, or she'd listened to something, and they were talking about the Aran Islands, or they were talking about the island of Arran, which is off the coast of Scotland. But the Aran Islands reminded her of her childhood in West Island, because my grandma's from Sligo, and she loved the smell of Aran wool jumpers. And it wasn't the name. It wasn't the Aaron. It didn't inspire her to call me Aaron. It reminded her of the name Aaron. So the name Aaron is originally, it's a Hebrew name, so it would be the brother of Moses. And so if you have any sort of Jewish diasporas around the world, a lot of people would say Aharon or Aaron. Mm-hmm. But living in Ireland and also growing up in the northeast of England, anybody who would pronounce my name would tend to say Aaron. My nephew, my brother's son, is named after me, and they call him Aaron. So, it's a funny one. It becomes a name that I talk about my own name quite a lot, and that gets sometimes a bit frustrating. So my workaround recently, I've come up with a way, is I say my name is like, when you open a window in the summer and it's really warm, to let the air in.
I like that.
And then I say, when you bake a cake and you whip the cream to get some air in. And then if I'm doing stuff with kids or with adults and kids and families, I'll say, when you pump your tires up on your bike to get some air in. And once they say Aaron a few times, they tend to call me Aaron. But as soon as they say, what's your name? And I say Aaron. And they say, oh, how do you spell that? And I say Aaron. They go, oh, you mean Aaron? Or we say Aaron. So I had a phone call with a dentist reception a year or two ago, and I was making an appointment for a checkup, and I was just going to take a little drink of tea.
Sure, yeah. Keep hydrated.
And
Water.
so we were, so we had the phone call, and she said, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Aaron." She went, "How do you spell that?" And I said, Aaron. She went, "Oh, do you mean Aaron?" And because it was a business call, and because I felt this was professional, I felt that I had to kind of stand by. I said, "No, my name is Aaron."
Yeah.
And she went, "Yeah, but we say Aaron." I said, "Yeah, but my name's Aaron."
Exactly.
And she was kind of like trying to make me feel bad that I wanted my name said correctly. But what was interesting is when I went into the dentist practice, the dental nurse and the dentist paused before they said my name. They said, "Hello, Aaron." So they call me Aaron. So I prefer Aaron.
Of course, yeah, it's your name. Sure.
Sometimes you just got to get on with your day. And if you're constantly checking people on how they say your name, it becomes more of a head wreck for me than the other person. So, I'm easy about it. But yeah, I prefer Aaron, but I know people say it as Aaron. But I prefer Aaron. So,
no, but listen, if it's your name, get the pronunciation right. It's like my name now. Fair enough. Okay, it's Karen. It's similar to if we go down the Aaron road and not the Aaron.
Yeah,
obviously, right. But again, Aaron, leaving the Aaron, I can get that one into my own head for the memory. I love it. But even with my own name, there's like how many different versions of the spelling? Loads. So again, if it's spelled in one way, but again, your name is down as something else. It's like, no, that's my name.
Yes.
Of course, unless you want to be called something else, and that's obviously fine. But no, that's
when I was a little boy.
Yeah,
I remember being in a post office I may have been with my grandmother, or I was with another family member, and there was an old gentleman. He was easy. He could have been in his 50s then, but he could have been in the 70s. I don't know how old he was, but he said, "What's your name?" In Newcastle, they would say, or in the northeast of England, they would refer to a little boy. They would say, "Bonny lad." So they would say, "Lovely little boy," or they would call you a boy. And he said to me, he said, "Bonny lad, what's your name?" And I said, "My name is Aaron." And he said, "Oh, Aaron." He said, "God said to Moses, all men will have round noses, except Aaron, he'll have a square one."
There you go.
So
one way
I remember that. I remember that little tale from when I was, 6 or 7 years of age, and a random guy, Aaron will have a square one. So that was a way to kind of to get it into people's brains. But anytime I ask people how to spell it, they'll say Aaron. So I try to avoid telling people how to spell it because I know they're going to say it wrong. But then it's funny because they think they're the first person who asked me this question, which is
they're not.
It's like I've already answered that question 10 times today already, but you have to.
Of course. But even at that, like your name alone, everything else, like it's just even to start off with, what a story, like, and it's lovely. And obviously call you the correct name, it's important. And even at that, okay, so like, no, thank you. Okay, you've grown up, as you say, like with say the likes of Newcastle, you've got lovely Irish heritage as well. Fascinating, diverse story. So, there's places you've lived, places you live now, places you've explored and all, but I suppose to deep dive, right?
Sure.
Where, this is a really deep question, I suppose, in its own way, right? But where would you say you are from?
Okay, great.
You deep dive to begin with, why not?
That's a really good question. And it's something I really struggle to answer because the question where you're from, I always find it a little bit limiting or vague, or I know when somebody's asking you the question, it does vary because you do have other people who ask you that question who really want to try to pinpoint you. I might go into that story in a minute, but I think most of the time people just want to know a little bit about you. So they go, where are you from? They're not prying, they are curious. I think most people are curious. And if you have a different accent and you look a little bit different, it's going to evoke a question of, wanting to know or want to become familiar. So I think the question where you're from, I think probably because I live in Ireland for so long, and obviously I have a northeast accent. Obviously that's going to, people are going to, well, I'm obviously not from Cork. That accent's not Cork, but I think I grew up, I was born and raised in the northeast of England by my Sligo-born grandmother. I grew up with my grandma and granddad, but because of the Irish connection, I highlight the fact my granny is from Sligo. So I grew up with my granddad, who was from County Durham, and my grandma, who was from County Sligo. So my mum, it's interesting because I actually got my DNA done recently.
This is really good. Very good. I just did the same myself.
And that was quite fascinating, actually, because I actually have no English in my very little English in my DNA. Really I say I have as much English in my DNA as you have on the foam that's left after you drink a cappuccino. Do you know,
in comparison.
It's like mostly Irish, actually, which is quite fascinating. My mom is 65% Irish, because my grandma would have probably been almost 100% Irish. Yeah. And then my grandfather has Irish heritage as well. But there was Irish, Scottish and Welsh, French. Actually, I won't look at that. Means I have to come off the phone. There was French. There was Breton.
Very good.
So my mum was like 65% Irish, 25% Scottish and Welsh.
Amazing.
About 8% English, and the rest was French. And how that came out from my side was like I was 40-odd% Irish, about 12.5% Scottish and Scottish and Welsh. 11% Italian. I was like, wow, I've got Italian.
Nice.
Some Italian, and then Italian, and then there was French, and then about 4% English. But then the origins of my biological father, he's from the Middle East. So there's Arabic there, then there's some Egyptian, and then some African countries, and then
really cool.
There's a tiny little bit of Persian at the end as well. So
nice.
so the question where you're from, is it like, okay, is the question where were you born? I was born in Gateshead, so I was born in the northeast of England. So Gateshead, I say Gateshead now just to be slightly not controversial, but just to kind of, because it'd be easy to say I'm from Newcastle.
Yeah.
But would a Cork man say he's from Kerry if he lived just over the other side of the river?
That is very true.
A Cork man wouldn't say he's from Kerry, he'd say I'm from Cork. So Newcastle is on the north side of the River Tyne.
There you go. This is correct.
And Gateshead is on the south side of the Tyne. So I grew up on the south side of the River Tyne.
Cool.
And I grew up near a very famous statue. It's the biggest statue in the UK, and it's the biggest angel statue in the world. It's called the Angel of the North. Have you heard of the Angel of the North?
I've heard of it, actually. Yeah. So that's where it is. So where you're from?
It's immense. It has a 54-meter wingspan, and it's about the height of 3 double-decker buses stacked on top of each other.
That's really big.
It's a massive statue, and it's literally at the side of the motorway. But what was cool was it literally was less than a mile's walk from my house as a kid. It was just literally on the landscape growing up. And growing up with my grandparents, they were a lot stricter than, say, my friends' my friends' parents.
Yeah.
So, I had to polish my own shoes, learn how to do my own ironing, and just learn basic life skills that I don't think my friends necessarily had to.
Yeah.
So my grandparents were quite strict, as in they wouldn't always allow me to go and, as they say, there's a phrase that's called gallivanting, mean hanging out with your buddies or, messing around. So I wasn't always afforded the freedoms that we want as kids. But my grandma and granddad, I remember really well, it was February 1998. Mm-hmm. I was 14 years of age. And they said, okay, on you go. You can go and watch the angel being erected. So at 14 years old, I remember sitting on a grassy hill on my own and watching this immense statue being put together. So
incredible.
So seeing the Angel of the North always became almost like a homing signal or a beacon for that's the Northeast, and that's where I was raised,
And also from that
so I don't know, does that answer the question where I'm from?
I love it, because I think you know what, it is such a question that to what level, where do you live, again, if you go to ancestors and all that.
I'm in Ireland 20 years. Yeah. So it's am I from...
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm from Cork, but I live in Cork. So,
sure.
And I really feel, although grew up in England. I very clearly grew up in England. That's, I can't never deny that. But I always had a kind of an Irish kind of, connection, a deep connection to Ireland specifically through my grandmother. It was. I wrote a poem a few years ago, and I said the words. This might sound a bit airy fairy, but I wrote words to the effect of, "The lives that we live are the dreams of our ancestors."
That's lovely. Yeah.
So, as in, if you're in a very difficult situation, say a war or a natural disaster, the people who survive always say, "I want my children to survive this." So the generations prior always wanted the best for the future for their children.
Of course, yeah.
No matter where you're from in the world. So I always feel like my grandmother, although she grew up she lived in Ireland, in England, most of her adult life, raised 8 children and multiple grandchildren, and then raised me. I think there was a part of her always had a deep love for Ireland, and I think I probably felt that. And so Ireland was somewhere that I'd always dreamt about.
Amazing.
As a kid. And my grandma would go on her yearly holiday to Sligo. So me and my grandfather and maybe a friend or someone or a cousin, we'd go to the airport, and back in the 90s, you could actually go up to the departure lounge. This is before security came in. Yeah. So we go to the airport, see my grandma off, and literally watch her going onto the runway.
Amazing.
So and then we go into Newcastle and maybe have a breakfast or go have a dinner out or whatever. So seeing that as a kid, I was always this longing to go to Ireland, even though I hadn't been at this stage.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
then in 19, sorry, go on, sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's amazing, like how it's like, deep rooted even like there as well, like at that stage. It's brilliant.
Yes. I have a tendency to run, so I'll slow down a little bit.
It's great.
So seeing my grandma go off, and then in 1995, I went on my first trip to Sligo. So we flew from Newcastle to Dublin, and then we got an inbound flight. It was Aer Lingus at the time. I don't even know if Ryanair was I don't even know Ryanair was doing I don't know what flight. It wasn't Ryanair. It was Aer Lingus. So we flew from Newcastle to Dublin, and then we got an inbound flight from Dublin to Sligo. And I remember my grandmother's cousin picked her up from the airport, and we drove to a shop in Ballina, and he bought me a bar of chocolate, and it was a bar of chocolate that I'd never seen before in the UK, and it was a milk crisp bar of dairy milk. So it was dairy milk, but it was mint. And I'd never really seen that in England. It's called, and you can still get it in Ireland now, but it's not it's not a chocolate that you would see in England at all. So, come to Ireland in 1995, and my grandfather came over as well, but he came over with my uncle and my cousins by car. Yeah. And me and my grandma travelled by flight, and then so we arrived earlier, and then we stayed a little bit longer afterwards. And I remember leaving Ireland in 1995, and I remember this real feeling that I didn't want to leave. I had this kind of sense of, felt really at home in Ireland in a way that I'd never experienced before in England. I felt a level of acceptance, and I really felt myself. There was something about Ireland that was really palpable, and I didn't want to leave. And it wasn't like a child who didn't want to go back to school. It was bigger than that. I couldn't necessarily articulate that feeling.
But you felt it anyway, in the core.
Yeah, this is. And then I went again in 96, and then I didn't go to Ireland again for 8 years. And then in 2004, I hitchhiked around Ireland for 9 days.
Incredible.
And had this incredible journey. And I remember walking around Dublin Airport, and I was listening to Sting on my earphones, and I actually had a couple of tears, and it was like I had this kind of a deep sense that Ireland had given me this experience, and I felt like it was an amazing journey. I was 21 at the time. and I had this real like deep love for life and love for Ireland at that time. And then I went back to the UK in 2004. And then for a year, I really struggled. I really struggled with my
Okay.
identity and not sure where I wanted to go in my life and all that kind of stuff. And I had this voice in my head, and I don't know where the voice come from.
Yeah.
I mean, just my intuition or my subconscious or whatever you want to call it. As a part of the voice kept saying me, if you go to Ireland, everything will work out. If you go back to Ireland, everything will work out. So at 22 years old, I left Newcastle with a backpack, no job, no CV,
Amazing.
no working mobile phone.
Wow.
And I arrived in Cork with about 140 euros in my pocket.
Yeah. A leap of faith.
What's that?
A leap of faith, isn't it?
A leap of faith.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm still here, over 20 years later.
That's interesting. Yeah, just trusting that. So, and thankfully, yeah,
What was
that's
that, sorry,
huge.
Karen?
Trusting the actual,
Trusting,
yeah, just
yes.
being guided and going with it. That's deep.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah. So when I arrived in Cork in October 2005, so when I arrived in Dublin originally, and I had some money, and my mum had given me some gold cufflinks. These gold cufflinks had come from a car boot fair, and I actually pawned the gold cufflinks into a pawn shop in Dublin, and I got 40 euros, but that became the price of my hostel in Dublin for the weekend. So I had a weekend in Dublin.
So you had that sorted.
I actually hitchhiked. Sorry,
you had that sorted then the weekend in Dublin to begin with.
I wasn't like on the tear on the weekend. It was just like I stayed in Dublin for a weekend, and then on the Sunday I hitchhiked down to Cork, and stayed in a hostel when I first got to Cork, a place called Sheila's Hostel.
Oh yeah,
Stayed there. It's on Wellington Road.
That's right. Yeah, it's just off of McCurtain Street. If anyone knows Cork, yeah, it's not too far from it. Is right. Yeah, Sheila's. I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So literally, I didn't even have a PPS. I didn't have my Irish national insurance number. So I had to register for that. So I arrived in Cork on the 23rd of October, and on the 24th of October, I went and registered my PPS number, and I went to various places looking for work. And everybody asked me, have you got a CV? And I said, I haven't got a CV. I said, but I'll drop one in when I get one done. I was just kind of feeling it out. I didn't even intend to get a job that day. I just intended to try and just get a feel of the place and, see what was out there. So I went to a place near the Camino in Cork. It's no longer there now. I think it's either been converted into apartments or it's a business. But I think at the time it was called the Riverside Cafe. And I walked into the Riverside. Do you know it?
I do, yeah. It's just gone way back now, I'd say. Yeah, obviously back then I do. I remember.
And at that time, it was actually an English woman that I recall. She owned it, and I spoke to her, and I said, "Have you got any work?" And she said, "I've got nothing at the moment." And I said, "Well," she said, "Have you got a CV?" And I said, "I'm sorry, I haven't got a CV, but when I get one done, I'll drop one in." I said, "Do you know anybody who's looking for somebody now?" And she said, "The Thirsty Scholar." Do you remember the Thirsty Scholar?
I do as well. These things are coming back. It's like a nostalgic journey for me historically.
So I walked into the Thirsty Scholar, and I was relatively smartly dressed. I had a press shirt on and a suit jacket, and I said, "Can I speak to the manager?" And a man with white curly hair came out, and he said, "I'm the owner. What are you selling?" And I said, "I'm not selling anything. I'm just looking for a job." And he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Newcastle," because I just said Newcastle at that time. And he said, "Why are people from Newcastle called Geordies?" Have you heard the expression? Have you heard the expression Geordies before?
I have heard it, yeah, but I'm not sure what it means or anything now either. So
well, that's where we'll go. We'll go there.
Great.
So there's a few various theories why people from Newcastle are called Geordie, but the one that I like, I learned from a TV show with Billy Connolly. So in the 18th century, when miners used to go down the used to go down the mines, they couldn't take a naked flame, because if you took a naked flame down the mines, there would be an explosion. So they also used to take fireflies in a jar so that they could illuminate the space, but that was limited as well. And they also they used to take canaries down the mines as well. So they would take a canary down the mines, and if there was too much gas, the canary would die or collapse, and that would give a signal to the miners that there was too much gas and they'd have to get out of the mine. So there was a man called Humphrey Davy, who invented what was called the Humphrey Davy safety lamp. So it was basically an encapsulated flame inside of a glass tube, inside of a metal housing, and it was called the Davy lamp. Now, Humphrey Davy came from more of an aristocratic background, or kind of a wealthy background. I might not be 100% accurate on that, but nonetheless. There was a man from Northumberland, a man called George Stephenson, who had a lot to do with the bringing steam locomotives into the cities. He developed a lot of infrastructure and different things around the steam locomotives. So he was very involved in that. And he also came up with a mining lamp called the George Stephenson mining lamp. Now, the name George is also known as Geordie. So if you're called George and you're from the Northeast, people would call somebody who was called George, they would call them Geordie. Yeah. So Geordie and George are synonymous. So they're people from the north of England tended to use the George Stephenson mining lamp, the Geordie. So they said that they're using the Geordie, the Geordies. So this is why, one of the reasons people believe why people from Newcastle are called Geordies. And he asked me that question, why are people from Newcastle called Geordies? I told him that answer, and he said, yeah, that's right. How did you know that? And I said, I saw it on a Billy Connolly show. And so had he.
That's gas.
So I'd made a friend. So what we like now for time?
We've got another, what do we have? Just a little bit over 5 minutes on this one now. So
all right, well, I'll bring it to an end then, and then maybe we'll restart another one if that's
that sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
cool.
So he said, I said, have you got any jobs? He said, well, I've got nothing at the moment. I said, well, I'll do anything. He said, well, I work in security. So I have a lot of bars and pubs in Cork. He said, I have a security company that does all of my door staff and security, and they also do shopping centres and such like. He said, would you work in security or would you work as a doorman? And I said, well, a doorman wouldn't necessarily be my temperament, but I would do security.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll make a phone call. He made a phone call, became my Irish reference, and got me an interview.
Incredible.
So that day, I arrived in Cork, no job, no connections, if you want. So I went to a place near the fountain in Cork City on Oliver Plunkett Street, and I met a woman in an office above, which is now it's called Swoop, which is like an ice cream shop, and it used to be opposite a place that used to sell records and secondhand books, which I don't know if that's there anymore.
No, I remember that actually.
Yeah, it was, at that time I think there was a florist downstairs, and then there was some offices above, and I went in and I got an interview for the security company, and the name of the security company was a guy called JD, an Australian guy who set up a security company in Cork.
There you go.
And she said to me, what's a little bit about my history, a little bit about my background, a little bit about my work experience. So I wrote out my information on this interview. She went, I like what I see. We will offer you some work at some point. What's your phone number? And I didn't even have an Irish phone number at the time, and because I literally arrived the day before, and I only still had my English number. So I walked into an office, and I met a guy called Paul, who was he was the manager of the security company, and he said he was telling me a little bit about Cork and how Cork City is technically on an island, and he was showing me maps of the city and such like. And then a guy with red hair walked into the office, and he said, "Does he speak English?" referring to me. And Paul said, "Yes, of course he does. He's from Newcastle."
Yeah,
he said, "What what are you doing tonight? And I said, nothing. He said, we need someone Blackpool Shopping Centre
Amazing.
to work night shift security. So I arrived in Cork on the
Yeah.
23rd of October, and on the 24th, not only got a job,
Yeah.
I
Started.
started a job. I
That is
started a job.
incredible. Like that's where things
Yeah.
align, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
definitely. So, Erin, that's incredible. Just literally coming to Cork, a leap of fate, and within like, was it even like the next day? Not only did you find a job and you started working in security, but I'm just curious as well. How did you, I suppose, develop, we say, the interest in the art of balloons and everything else? And where did that journey start for you as well?
So it's interesting that question. So my when I was 18, I worked in a restaurant in the northeast of England, which was it was family dining, but they were kind of changing the business model and they wanted to make it family fun dining. So what they did is they got like a lot of trainers in, and part of the training, the staff learned how to spin plates, juggle, and make balloon animals. And my job was the welcome host. So when people would come into the restaurant, I would find them a table for four, table for six, smoking. At the time, there was smoking within the restaurant. So it was smoking or non-smoking. And when the kids would leave, I'd make them a balloon. So I learned how to make a dog and I learned how to make a sword.
Amazing.
And a rabbit, and essentially a rabbit was just a dog with long ears. So what I'll do for you now, and I'm actually going to
Oh, this is
close my
exciting.
eyes.
Yeah. This is
I'm
really
going to
good
make
now.
you a I'm going to make you a one balloon dog, but I'll do it with my eyes closed to show off.
Oh, this is going to be amazing. So anybody watching this on any of the platforms or watching it on YouTube as well, this is going to be a treat. And from my side, I can make probably a snake or a worm because basically I can just there's nothing
All
to do.
right.
I like to think. That's as far as
Yeah,
mine
yeah, yeah.
goes, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting because I had
Yeah.
my idea would be. Have you ever seen that TV show Hot Ones?
Hot
It's a
ones, is it? Yeah.
it's basically a podcast stroke YouTube show where the host interviews lots of famous people and interesting personalities, but they eat hot wings. They eat chicken wings.
Actually, do you know, I did actually, now that you're saying it, I did see random things with it
So they
way
start
back.
with like mild chili and they get progressively hotter and hotter and hotter, and you see their reactions. And he has he asked some very interesting questions. So my idea was at some point in the future was to do basically a balloon modeling. Maybe I should be saying this public because somebody might
No,
steal
I love this.
the idea.
Get it out
But
there, yeah.
but to actually do a balloon modeling interview, so like teach somebody how to make a dog or a sword or something more advanced, and then you interview them through the process and just talk about stories and different things.
That
So this
sounds
is going to
lovely,
be
yeah.
a one balloon dog,
Okay.
and I'm gonna close my eyes.
All right, this is impressive now.
I don't know if you're catching it on the camera
I am
because I
indeed.
don't
I
want to
can
look.
see it. This is so quick as well. Like how? You're making it look so easy, I'll be honest. You're making it look easy. It's impressive to see an expert at work, I'll tell you that. Amazing.
There's
I
a little
mean,
bit at the
oh,
end.
look,
So
it's like a
that's
little poodle or whatever, isn't it? A
a
little
little poodle.
tail.
That's
That is
a one
brilliant.
balloon dog.
Oh, I'll tell you, that
So
is something going.
when I worked in the restaurant, my job was the welcome host, and I learned the basic level of balloons. So I was actually at my mum's in October, and I had dropped some papers on the table or some documents and stuff, and I picked up the documents, and accidentally I picked up some stuff from her document tray. I'd actually picked up some of her documents by mistake, and one of the things that dropped out was a photograph from 1998, and it was me. I was 14 at the time. It was me making balloons
Amazing.
in my mom's house, and the next door neighbor at that time was an entertainer. They were children's entertainers. So I actually learned how to make a balloon dog, very basic level of a balloon dog when I was 14. And then when I worked in the family restaurant, the family dining restaurant, I learned a kind of a slightly more advanced version. So when I arrived in Cork in October 2005, I got the job. I got that job in security, working night shift. But at the time, I had very little money. I paid for 5 nights in a hostel. I've got about 70 euros left. But once that money was gone, I had nothing. So I was like, okay, how can I didn't intend to come to Cork to make balloons. It was like, how can I make a little bit of extra money on the side? Because
Absolutely.
I'd
Yeah.
always been encouraged to do that as a kid. I'd go car washing, or I'd clip people's hedges, or I'd paint people's fences. Living with my grandparents, they were very encouraging of me going out and making my own money. They wouldn't necessarily always give me, they would give me pocket money, but I was very encouraged to go out and, if I wanted a bit of extra pocket money,
Yeah.
you had to
Go
go out
work
and
for it.
you had to go out and earn it. And I actually don't think that was a bad thing. It was, a good life skill. So I always had that. So coming to Cork and having not much money at that time, okay, why don't I go and buy a bag of balloons? So on McCurtain Street, which is no longer there, there was a a balloon shop called Balloon Surprise. And it used to be like a kind of, I don't know what building is there now, but it was kind of like a little arcade that you'd walk into in McCurtain
Yeah.
Street. And there was some shops, and one of the shops was a balloon shop, a balloon decoration. They did balloon decorating and other things, but they also sold modeling balloons as well.
Ideal.
So I bought a bag of modeling balloons in a balloon pump, and I even remember how much I spent. It cost me like 7.50 for the bag of balloons and €6 for the pump. So for 13 euros 50, I bought a bag of balloons, and so I thought, okay, I'll go to the street. So I went on the street in Cork, and I started making dogs and swords in the street. And I had done that before in Newcastle, but I had very little success. So, being in Cork, having very little money, just starting a job, and when you get a job, you don't get paid straight away. So I needed like an
Yeah, of
immediate income.
course. Yeah.
I thought I was going to make dogs and swords in the street and just see how it goes. I didn't think I'd become the balloon man. That wasn't the intention. It was just kind
Yeah.
of make a couple of quid to get by at the moment. And a good friend of mine, a guy called Antane, and my cousin, they said to me, Aaron, you keep telling us your stories and the people that meet and the things that happen and synchronicity and coincidences. Keep a journal. So when you come to Ireland, buy a journal and write down your stories. And I did that. So I started to write down my stories about the experiences and the people that I met and things that happened. So that sort of journey and ideas sort of outcropped and grew. So one day I was in McCurtain Street buying balloons, and I met a woman from New Zealand, a woman called Christiana. And it was great to meet somebody else who made balloons. This is before Facebook. This is before smartphones. This is,
Amazing.
we all had our basic dial-up phones, and
The ones with the
uh,
batteries lasting so much longer. Yeah.
yeah,
True.
yeah. But to meet someone who was in the same world as you then
Amazing.
was almost like, unless, it was more happenstance. So meeting someone who also make balloons, I was super excited. And I said, oh, wow, you make balloons as well. I said, I've been looking for someone who's really good at balloons. I would like to learn from them, or I'd like to meet somebody who makes balloons. I didn't even say I would like to learn from them. I'd like to meet somebody who also does balloons. She went, well, funnily enough, I have a friend from Spain who's a balloon artist, and he's looking to work with someone.
Incredible.
So it's funny because I just picked him up from hospital yesterday.
Poor guy. Yeah. Hopefully he's
Um,
okay. But
no, he's fine. He's fine. He just needed someone to sign him up. He just needs someone to take him from hospital. But I'm. She made a phone call to him, and obviously gave him my number and vice versa. So I met this guy called Victor, who is from Spain originally, and he has a company called Moonshine Balloon Magic, and he's based in Cork, and he was in Cork 5 years before me, so he was in Cork over 25 years, and he's a balloon artist and at quite a high level. He'd probably one of the people. He'd definitely be one of the best balloon artists in Ireland. He would be definitely one of the kind of pioneers of balloon art in Ireland. So we went to a play. I met him on Patrick Street, outside of Brown Thomas, and I remember he had a rainbow hooped jumper, quite a colourful jumper, and I remember him having a very shaky handshake. You know, when you meet someone and they have a
Yeah,
very
sure.
shaky hand,
Yeah,
he had
sure.
a very shaky, a very good firm shaky handshake, and so we met, and he had his balloon box with him all his equipment, and it was an old toolbox which he'd kind of pimped up to make it into a balloon kit. So we went to the gingerbread house on. It's no longer the gingerbread house in
No,
Cork now.
yeah,
It's called Amicus,
that's
but it was
right. It's taken me
it's a
back
place
actually,
people.
the gingerbread house.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice spot.
but also it was a place people used to hang out till like 10 o'clock, and they'd have coffee and scones. I don't
Ideal,
think you could
yeah.
buy alcohol there.
It was
But I
really
don't
good.
remember. I think it was around 2006, 2007 that the gingerbread house changed.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it was such a good outlet to have. As you said, like
Yeah.
people could just go connect and it could be coffees, hot chocolates and all that. And it was open late as
Yes.
well, which is lovely.
Yes.
But they need to bring back more of these places. I think
Do
they are.
you remember Try
I do. Tribes open
on?
till like 2 or
Yeah.
3 a.m., if not
That went
later.
at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Yes,
then there
yeah.
was the Eco. There was Eco. It's the Eco Cafe, which was like the internet cafe on
Oh God, yeah, I remember that too.
Winthrop Street.
Yes, one of the small,
The-
yes, right.
yeah. So I met Victor. We went to the gingerbread cafe or the gingerbread house, and I showed him what I already knew, and he started to kind of like critique and give me feedback on what I was doing. He said, "Oh, if you do this or you do that," and then he showed me how to make a monkey up a tree, and then he showed me
Amazing.
how to make a teddy bear, and he showed me different sort of balloon techniques. So then I spent time with Victor occasionally, so I was working night shift security, and then in my spare time I'd be making balloons, on weekends and stuff. So I was kind of waiting for my income from my security job. I didn't really have any fixable. I was staying in a hostel at the time, and then a few of us, an Italian guy, a guy from Liverpool, a guy from Tasmania, two French girls. We all found a big house in the city, and we moved into a house on Washington Street. I could almost touch the Domino's Pizza sign from my bedroom window. What I loved about living in the house was so cool. I literally would go downstairs and I would go to the internet cafe, and I remember it so well. I come out of the shower one day, got into my tracksuit bottoms and jumper or whatever, and I went to the cinema in my flip flops.
Unreal.
Because there was a cinema on Washington Street called the Kino, which is no
Right.
longer a
No,
cinema.
yeah, that was a good cinema actually as well.
But what's interesting is I'll bring the Kino now into to
Yeah.
the story. So I went to the Kino one day in 2006. This is after living in Cork for about 5 months, and I'm in the Kino. And what was really cool was I was about to watch a film on my own. I was quite excited about the fact that there was no one else in the cinema. I was like, I got the cinema to myself. So I'm sitting there and I was about to watch this film called A Cock and Bull Story by Steve Coogan. Interesting, Steve Coogan, I think he has a big Irish connection going on, but that's another story. So I was about to watch this film, and I remember what I loved about the Kino is you could actually get a proper mug of coffee. It's house coffee, but you get a mug of coffee. So I remember, Kit Kat and a mug of coffee, and in walks a guy into the cinema, literally 3 to 5 minutes before the film was about to start, and he being me, I shouted over to him and I said, "Sure, we're the only ones in here. Why don't you sit next to me?"
Yeah.
Or maybe at first I said, "What's your name?" And he
Yeah.
said, "My name is Jason."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why don't you come and sit next to me?" And
Yeah.
he didn't know what my motivations were. I was just curious. He sat maybe one seat away, so he was maybe wondering who this guy, the random guy, has told me in the
This is
cinema.
a random
But
guy.
anyway, we had a chat and watched the film together. And then he had an accident in Taiwan and
Okay.
broke some limbs on a motorbike accident. He was kind of recovering back in Cork. And I said, "Would you like to go for a game of pool and have a drink?" So we were in a bar having a place called the Mardyke, which is around the corner from the Kino. And we were just shooting pool, chatting away. And I said to him, "What work have you done in Cork before you went to live in?" He said, "Well, I used to work in bars and pubs." I said, "Oh, which bars and pubs do you work in?" He said, "I used to work in the Thirsty Scholar." I said, "Wow, that's interesting." I said, "The guy who got me helped me get a job and become my Irish reference,
Yeah.
owns the Thirsty Scholar.
That's, yeah,
He said that
connections.
he said that's my dad.
No way. That is literally how does everything connect and go like
So it
full
was like,
360?
wow. It
Yeah.
was like,
Amazing.
I'm in Cork 5 months now, still living in the house on Washington Street, making balloons on the weekend, getting an income from the security job and just kind of enjoying I was in my early 20s, having a great
Yeah.
time, international people. And then I meet the son of the guy who got me a job when I first arrived in Cork
What were
in the
the odds of
cinema,
that? Like
totally,
back then? Yeah.
totally
Amazing.
randomly.
Yeah. That is
So,
definitely, yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. I think if you ask me a question, because I
Sure,
can
yeah,
I
no,
can ramble.
I'm
So,
loving the stories as
yeah,
well. I'm loving how
yeah,
it all sort of like nearly goes 360, and I'm sure everybody else listening is going, this is amazing, and alignment and being in the right place, right time, and
yes,
100%. You can see where things just, it's like an aha moment and all. So I'm just gonna ask you something more about balloons itself, right? So
sure,
you started off with, as you said, like swords and all the rest of it, right? And you expanded.
yes.
What is I suppose, generally speaking, right? For children and adults even alike, is there any common things that people will ask you to make firstly, right? Just
So
generally.
girls love unicorns. The girls love unicorns. The boys love
Yeah.
dinosaurs, and then
There you
you know
go.
your your you know your superheroes. We'll just call them superheroes instead of
Yeah,
saying the
yeah.
brand names because we're
There's
on
loads
the
of them
internet and
out
stuff.
there.
But um,
That's cool.
super
Yeah.
swords.
Yeah.
Bow and arrows, monkeys, dinosaurs, elephants.
Yeah. The popular ones. Yeah.
Um, you would learn various characters that would be popular at the time.
That's
Kids would
brilliant.
always
Yeah.
ask you for what's in at the moment, and you wouldn't always be able to make it. But one thing Victor always kind of
Yeah.
has a philosophy is if you don't know how to make it, you try,
Yeah.
and then you can. I would, I would kind of like the way a chef would learn
Hmm.
how to make a new recipe.
True.
To
Yeah.
make a new recipe, he might have to expand his skill level to
Yeah.
learn a new recipe. But because he learned a new skill, he can learn 5 new recipes.
I
So
get you.
by
Yeah.
learning one more magic trick or one more balloon skill,
Hmm.
you'll open the door to make 3 or 4 new models that you
Which is
wouldn't have,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
That's really good.
So
And what is the most challenging thing you've ever had to make so far? Is that kind of an
out,
open
out,
question?
out of balloons. So in
Yeah.
2014, there was a woman who said to her husband, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he said, "I'd love one second."
Yeah. Oh, I'm just curious now. The suspense now as well. This makes it sound good.
He said, I'd love a motorbike." Or he said, "I'd love a Harley Davidson."
All
And
right.
she
That's
was like,
very
she
specific.
wasn't going
Yeah.
to get him a Harley Davidson, but obviously he got a bit creative and she contacted another balloon company in Cork called Red Balloon.
Yeah.
Red Balloon is owned by a woman called Jenny, but she does much more balloon decoration like things as opposed to
Oh,
balloon
yeah.
modeling.
Cool. Yeah.
Um, so Jenny contacted me because Victor was out of the country at the time. And she said, "Hi, Aaron. It's Jenny told me the story about the woman who wanted a motorbike." And I said, "Well, listen, I've never made a motorbike out of balloons." I said, "But leave it." She said, "I believe in you. I believe that." I remember she said that. And she said, "I really believe in you." And I said, "That's great." I said, "Listen, what I'd say is let me have a little look online, see if I can kind of come up with some ideas. I'll do a I will do kind of a prototype and see if I
Yeah.
can do it. Because
Amazing.
if I can't do it when I've got free time today
Yeah.
and kind of get to a level, whereas I didn't want to be in a position of doing it, saying I could do it and then not being able to do it. So I
Yeah.
wanted it.
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
did. So I did a trial run and I actually came up with something. And what's interesting is I moved into the new house with my fiance recently, and obviously
Amazing.
going
Congratulations
through.
as well, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I proposed on Christmas Day, so
Lovely.
Jennifer said yes, so that's
Amazing.
great.
Delighted for you. That's incredible.
Um, yeah, so I had the house I lived in before. I'd lived in for 7 years, so I'd like so much stuff. I didn't realize how much stuff I had, so it took me a long time to go through my stuff. But I was going through my stuff recently, and my good friend who I'm going to be best man at his wedding in October.
Incredible. Yeah.
I'm
Exciting here.
I'm also goddaughter to his daughter, godfather to his daughter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
So I had
incredible.
made the balloon, and then I was really good friends with him, and I said, "Do you want to give it to your daughter?" So he gave the big balloon to his daughter. And when I was going through all my books and stuff, I found the photograph of the balloon, not the balloon that I eventually gave to the customer, but the
Yeah,
prototype. So it was
amazing.
cool to see that. It was cool to see that again. And so based upon what I had learned that day, I went back to Jenny Balloon and said, "Listen, I will make the balloon motorbike." And I was staying at, and then I contacted the woman. I said, "What color theme would you like to go for?" And she, "Well, I like to go orange and blue." I said, "Yeah, no problem."
Okay, cool.
So I will remember staying at a friend's house, and at the time, I didn't have a smartphone. I was in the smartphone era, but something had happened to my phone at the time. So I think I didn't have a way to record it or photograph it.
Yeah,
So I asked the woman, "Can you please send me a photograph of the balloon?" So she did send me a photograph. And
amazing.
I remember I met her in a car park, and like, 12 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, it was two black bin liners covering the balloon motorbike. It took me 4 hours to make it.
That
But
is
she was very happy, and it got
incredible.
displayed
Yeah,
in the pub where they had the 40th birthday party.
seriously cool. Yeah,
Um, so that would have been the most sort of like longest
yeah, it's like a huge project. I can
balloon.
imagine.
But I suppose the longest, you know, um, day of just constantly making balloons. I've done days where I'd start at 10 in the morning and finish at 8
Yeah,
over Christmas, and you would just have a never-ending queue, and it's Rudolph, Santa Clauses, candy canes.
it lines up.
Uh, so Christmas is always another level of busy, but then you have I did a really big event now for Good Friday in Cork,
Okay, amazing for
and
Easter. Like, yeah.
that was a 7 hour job. So it was from 10
Oh,
in the morning till 5,
and you were
and
kept
just
on.
a relentless queue, just non-stop, 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 non-stop. So yeah. So sometimes
Amazing though.
the technicality of the balloon might be simpler, but
Hmm.
you're still having to deal with lots of people, lots of, and
Yeah,
also, even if you're not feeling the best, you have to pretend you're feeling the best.
exactly. Give
So,
the
which
extra
is,
energy and all that, as you say. And you definitely bring the energy places. Like I will say that, like from the marina market to like everywhere else,
thank
100%.
you.
You see,
Yeah.
a few
Yeah.
of us all met one stage, wasn't it? We were all having food and we all just connected over food, like bunches of us. It was amazing. But that's what it's all about. But yeah, so you've done a lot, right? And you've traveled making money with the
Yeah.
well, am I right in
So
saying that?
yeah, so when I started to, write the stories down, I was like, okay, I was in Cork. This is kind of 2006. I'd been doing the job in security for a while, and I was like, it would be great to go and do some journeys where I could have experiences and then write those stories down. So I thought, why don't I go? So I was telling Victor I want to go all these different countries. And he said, well, why don't you go to Germany for World Cup 2006?
Amazing.
And you could make balloons for all the different countries. You get balloon hats for all the different countries. You could kind of go to the fan areas and make balloons for the Brazilian fans, and then the German fans or the English fans or
Yeah.
whatever fans. And so I thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if I hitchhiked from Newcastle? So
Amazing.
without going into that story too much, it didn't work out the way I thought it would. Yeah, it was a really tough journey. I won't go into the whole story, but it was, I hitchhiked. I got all the way as far as Calais. I got, I pitched my tent on a bee's nest, and some bees started chasing me.
Oh God.
Um,
That's like my worst
I
nightmare.
I got attacked in Calais. I got some young kids were throwing stones at me.
Oh,
Um, it was a really uncomfortable moment. I don't know
mm,
why they were throwing stones at me, but it was a horrible experience,
worst story,
and
yeah.
it really threw me. And eventually, I ended up in Belgium like late at night. Got to a hostel, and then and then eventually I hitchhiked to a place called Liège in Belgium, and I just kind of emotionally broke down at the side of the road. And I was like,
Of course,
"What?
yeah.
What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Um, and I made
Trauma
the
of it.
decision.
Yeah.
I made a decision not to go to Germany. I was 50 kilometers away from Germany, and I decided to hitchhike back to Newcastle. And
Detour.
yeah, so I spent a week on the road, and I kind of went all the way there to come back, which, I think in life you go so far on a journey that you go too far and then you've got to come back. So I think
Yeah,
that's part of
exactly.
it.
And that takes more,
So,
like, yeah, to realize, like, at the time, as you say, like,
and
yeah.
I think sometimes you don't realize the lack of experience you have until you go too far. So I
Ah,
think that was the lesson then. I didn't necessarily, have the confidence, or I was just a bit. It was. I just took on a lot. Hitchhiking to Newcastle from Germany, if it doesn't go well,
yeah.
is a hard thing to do. So that was an interesting experience, but it didn't work out the way I wanted. But then I had a lot of other journeys that did work out.
Yeah.
So in 2009, I did the road to Santiago.
Oh, amazing.
Um,
The
I
Camino.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was um, when I was 18, a friend of mine gave me a book called the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho,
Yes, okay,
and I
amazing.
and I read the Alchemist, and it kind of blew my mind open at that time. I was 20 year old, and she gave me another book called The Pilgrimage. So I read The Pilgrimage, and The Pilgrimage is about so it's a book that Paulo Coelho wrote about the Camino. And I read The Pilgrimage, and through a series of meeting various people, I hitchhiked to Scotland. This was before I lived in Ireland. This was in
Yeah.
2003, and hitchhiked to Scotland. And I remember being in Loch Lomond, and I had this fire, and I was reading the book The Pilgrimage by the fireside, looked up at the moon, and said to myself, "One day I will do this journey." And that was 2006.
Oh,
Sorry, 2003.
yeah.
And then in 2009, I began the Camino on the
Oh,
13th of April 2009. And this is before,
yeah.
not at all to take away from anybody's journey on the Camino, because I know a
Of
lot of people
course,
have done
yeah.
the Camino, and it's very incredibly popular now.
It
But
is.
it it, it wasn't something that I'd ever heard about until I'd read that book. But now
Incredible.
it's
Yeah.
it's
It is. Like, I've done four
it's
legs of it
incredibly
myself. Yeah.
incredibly popular.
It is really big.
Um,
Yeah.
it's massive. It's probably the most. It's probably, correct me, I might be accurate. It's probably one of the most walked pilgrimages in the Western world.
I
I don't know
think
if you
it
could
is
say
up
it would
there.
be,
Yeah.
it would be massive. So, yeah, the Camino was
Hmm.
a phenomenal journey.
And I'd imagine you did it probably I suppose, traditional way, did you? Like, just
oh,
going places, staying wherever, and
in 2009, yeah. So I walked from Saint Jean Pied de Port
okay, the
to
full, yeah.
Santiago in 31 days. So I
My God,
did.
you literally did the
I
full stint.
Yeah, about nearly. I think it's about 800 kilometers, 500 miles.
That's
Never missed a
outstanding.
day of walking. Met
Amazing.
some incredible people who I'm still friends with to this day. Yeah, the Camino. I still even have my shell. It was funny because when I was moving out from my house, when I was in the Pyrenees, I met some guys from Australia. And one of the guys I met, his name was Edward, and my grandma's father was called Edward as well. So I actually, the stick that I found because I walked with this
Yeah.
random piece of stick that I found in the Pyrenees, and I nicknamed my stick Edward.
Oh, I love it.
And I'd kept the stick until I was about to move from my old house, but the woodworm had got to it, and it was
Oh,
very
here.
old, and it was falling apart. But when I was on the Camino, the bottom of the staff was kind of starting to split.
Okay, yeah.
So I found this perfume bottle on the ground. I didn't know it was a perfume bottle at the time. And I affixed that to the bottom of the staff as a way to stop it from cracking. And I called it my golden hoof.
Oh, I like it, yeah.
So before I left my old house, I burned it as a way to kind of, like, go say goodbye to the Camino
Yeah, like a
stuff. But I
ritual,
kept,
like, yeah.
but I kept the golden hoof. So I still have my golden hoof from the Camino. So I don't think I could ever get rid of that. And my Camino shell. So I did the Camino in
Yes,
2009. Then a
amazing.
friend of mine, I loaned her the shell. Then I did. I think someone else, a couple of other people borrowed it from me, but I always got it back. And then in 2018, I thought, wow, it wouldn't be nice to do another leg on the Camino. So the Camino that I did in 2009 was called the Saint Jacques de Compostela, which is from Saint Jean Pied de Port to
Hmm.
Santiago, called the French way. And then 2018, 19, and 22, I did various legs on the northern route, which is called the Camino de Norte. Or my
Yeah.
description might not be 100%
No, yeah,
accurate.
it's amazing. Like, yeah.
Um, so when I did it in 2018, I was in a bus station in Bilbao. I love Bilbao. It's one of my favorite cities in
And I'm
Spain.
just back from there myself, and I'll agree.
Oh,
Incredible.
it's
It
great,
is
isn't it?
just, oh, what a place. Yeah, just back from the Camino
Oh,
as well. So
Did you
amazing.
go to the Guggenheim Museum?
I did. It was just unbelievable. Amazing. Like
It's
out
so
of the
nice.
world. Yeah,
And it's
just
very
incredible.
re like it's so like it's not I wouldn't say it's not it's cheap. Yeah. I mean,
No,
I remember being there in 2022. I got a glass of wine, some Spanish tortilla, and a coffee, and I got changed from €5.
that is incredible. It's
That
still
was
cheap.
like,
Like, I don't know
yeah,
if it's as cheap as I know, but it's definitely a lot cheaper than Ireland. Big
sure.
time. Like, yeah, 100%. And even at that now, we did more or less last week now, is about, what was it, 2 weeks ago maybe, like Burgas to, if I say it right, it was Burgas area anyway.
Okay.
That we went
Oh
from,
yes.
yeah. So that side of it.
You're now in the Meseta, the
Yeah, so
flatlands.
like Basque
Yeah.
County and all that, but
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Like just I think everywhere it's like the journey, isn't it? It's like to describe it. I suppose you might agree with me, but it's like
Oh yeah.
emotional, physical, spiritual journey on every, and every day
And
is different
just
every minute.
just the sound of the crunch of the gravel underneath your feet. And
Yeah.
do you remember seeing the birds? The birds like there's so in the Meseta there's very little trees. So the birds have kind of trained themselves. They fly up a certain
Yes,
height,
actually,
and
yeah.
then they come down and swoop across the
I did
ground. And
notice that
yeah,
at stages actually that you mentioned it. Yeah, it was. Do you know what was
yeah.
so
And I
beautiful?
remember always seeing the entrails in front of me and never. It was almost like you. I think when you walk, you become really in sync with with nature.
It's so true,
You
isn't it?
know,
And time
yeah.
slows down, isn't it? Because we're so more, I suppose, present and so more connected, really, to our surroundings and everything else, which is great. And you're just walking along, and you can be guided to do something or whatever. It's just that journey, and you'll agree with it. Definitely, I'd say from everything. But yeah, the Camino. I think we're recommending that to people at this stage as well.
Oh, the Camino is phenomenal. It's a really beautiful way. I think it's so lovely to see a country by walking
Mm,
because it's really simple to go, okay, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna eat, and I'm gonna go sleep. That's
absolutely.
and the people they meet along the way and the conversations
It's just
and
incredible.
I'm really glad. I mean, when I did the Camino in 2018, 19 and 22, I only walked a lot less than I did in the
Yeah, I
Camino in
mean, you did like an
2009.
incredible leg. I mean, that's like, and
Yeah,
even
well,
over the
the
mountain area and
2009,
all.
I was much fit. I was 26. It was, it was a different time in my life, let's
Of
say.
course, yeah.
Um, but what I did really appreciate about doing the Camino 2020, sorry, the 2009, it was before smartphones. So it was like
Nice.
you didn't know what was like. I didn't even have a guidebook. Like I really embraced this sort of idea. I mean, I had whatever pamphlets that you got given when you arrived at the albergue in Saint Jean Pied de Port, and you
Yeah.
meet the guides and they tell you what. And I still have some of the stuff, and they tell you the gradient of that day and what distances between this town and that town. So I had the basics,
Yeah.
but I didn't have like a perfect. So I think what was quite nice about doing the Camino 2009 was the story unfolded as you walked. Like
Yeah.
sometimes
I
you go and
love
watch
it.
a movie now,
Yeah,
people go
absolutely.
watch a movie and they watch all the trailers, they know everything of what every critic has said about the film. And then when they go and watch the film, they're waiting for what they've already learned about the film. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's nice to go and watch a movie and know nothing. And
I
like
think
doing the
that
Camino that way as
sounds
well.
like me. I literally knew. And if you ask anybody that I went on it with now, they're saying, Karen, how'd you get from A to B? Literally. And as you say, like it's like as Romney says, isn't it? As I walk the path becomes clearer or something like that. And for me, yeah,
Did you say Rumi?
Rumi, yeah, that's his name, is it? I call
Rumi.
him
Oh
Rumi,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Rumi, yeah, there we go. You see, this is it.
Yeah.
I'll look
No,
up
it's all right.
names.
No, no, it's fine, it's fine.
But yeah, the path becomes clear, so it's very trusting. So it was Logronio actually to or was it, yeah, Burgos, then we were back to Burgos. I was trying to think, where do we go? Logronio to Burgos, and like yeah, I knew where we were going. I knew the name of the town each day, but did I know the gradient? Not at all. It just added to the fun. Some people did, and I thought, you know what? I'll just explore it. It adds to the excitement as well. So I'd be something similar like that, which is great. But
Yeah, so I did it from April 2009 to May 2009. And then I came back to Ireland briefly. and I found this festival called the Volvo Ocean Race in Galway. So I did that for 2 weeks and made some money from that. Did quite well actually.
Amazing. Well done.
Um, and then as a balloon artist, I was making these things called Irish Green Dragons. So Ireland, the Volvo Ocean was this kind of like yacht race around the world, and the island had partnered, I think, with a Chinese organization, and
Okay,
it
cool.
was called the Irish Green Dragon. So there was a huge, it was great. It was a fantastic festival in Galway. And the woman who I met who let me work with her doing balloons, I'm still really good friends with her today. A woman called Liz who lives in Galway, and she's also a balloon artist. So I'm still really good friends with Liz. And anytime I'm in Galway, I go to stay with Liz,
That's
and
amazing. Yeah.
she'll always make me a nice dinner, and she refers to herself as my Irish mammy. So
Oh,
well,
very
I
good.
refer to her as my Irish mammy more accurately. So so came back to Ireland 2009 after the Camino, and I'd always had this idea to go to Canada, but I didn't know exactly how it would unfold.
Yeah,
So
amazing.
I went back to Newcastle in June 2009, and I was looking at prices of flying to Canada, and it was going to cost me £500 for a one-way trip to America, and then had to get another flight. And all the flight options I was looking at were pretty expensive, so nothing was coming available. And although I had a little bit of money, I didn't
Hmm.
have huge amounts of money. And the more I was staying with my mom and paying for bits and pieces and just, like everyday expenses, my money was starting. I was there for about 3 weeks, and my money was starting to whittle down. Although I was able to get work doing my balloons in the northeast. So anyway, I went online and I found flights to Canada for like £380 sterling return.
Okay, that's a
So
lot
flying,
better. Huge difference.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't, what was even better was I didn't have to fly from London. I could fly directly from Newcastle to Toronto, and then my return flight was from Calgary to London. So I had about £100 sterling cash, and I was able to convert that into $200. So by the time I paid for my flights, by the time I had so the £100 would convert about $200, and I had about $150, 150 euros stroke pounds in my bank, which is about $300. So I went to Canada with about 250 euros stroke pounds, about $500 in total, and a bag of balloons.
Amazing, amazing.
So yeah, so I arrived in Canada. I arrived in Toronto on the 1st of July 2009, and my challenge was to see could I go across Canada for 3 months, completely financed by balloons, because all the money that I had made that I arrived in Canada, like my seed money, if you want, was that I'd made from the Volvo Ocean Race, which was from balloons. Um, so yeah, I was in Toronto. I was in Toronto, and I ended up trying to do my balloons, but never wanting to busk in the street because I never wanted like a cop to ask me questions. And obviously,
Yeah, the whole thing.
I'm on a tourist visa, so I'm not really meant to be busking anyway. So I was in a bit of a
Yeah.
whatever. So I never wanted to be in an. I didn't want. So I thought, well, if I went to restaurants, so I went restaurant to restaurant and tried to get work in restaurants. Some people would say, "Can you send us an email?" Other people would say, "We're busy. Can you come back tomorrow? Can you speak to my manager, etc." And one guy, he didn't tell me to f off, but he said no to me so loud in my face that it was equivalent to saying f off. He just
Basically, yeah.
shouted, he bellowed at me, and I was
Yeah.
kind of shaken by his
Yeah.
rejection.
It
I
was a
told him what I
definite
did.
clear no at the time.
He was like,
No messing.
he bawled at me like no, and I was like, okay, sorry. So I found this Greek restaurant in a place called the Danforth in Toronto, and I was like, nobody's really interested in why I'm doing it. I just got to go in and be really cool. So I went in. I was really smart. I didn't even wear my Balloon Man jacket. This one I actually
Yeah,
designed. I
they're really
didn't.
cool.
I
Yeah.
didn't make it. I didn't make it, but I put it. I'm going to show you the
Oh, show
back as
me.
well.
Oh, that's quite cool.
You
I
see the
like
back
it.
there?
Yeah, it's very colorful.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So that's what's called. It's based upon a design called a sunburst,
Yeah,
but mine has a balloon in the middle, so I'll call it a balloon burst.
I love
So
it.
like a sunburst is kind of like, you have the sun and then you have all the colors come from the sun.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
there's a woman in Cork called Catherine, a French lady who's um, a costume designer, and I designed a costume, and she helped me put it together a few years ago. And I had the design idea for this one, but I knew that my speed on the sewing machine isn't quick enough, so
Yeah,
I commissioned Catherine to make it, but it was my design.
that's really
So
cool.
yeah, so I have a few. So this is so it's like this is just flames. It's just a
Yeah,
normal material that's actually in the style of flames. But then you have the balloon sort of sun thing on the back as well. So
that's
that's kind of
really
cool.
creative. Yeah, I love it. It's kind of like your
So when I
essence
was
really
in,
with it. Yeah.
yeah, like I actually I don't necessarily have to wear colorful jackets, but I like wearing colorful jackets. But
It makes you unique.
so
It's brilliant.
thank you, thank you. So I'm in the Danforth and in Toronto, and I was like, I didn't want to wear my colorful jackets. I thought I'd just wear a normal
Yeah.
smart jacket. So I arrived with my balloon kit, and I said, "Hi, I'm a balloon artist. I go restaurant to restaurant working for tips." And she pointed to this guy that looked like somebody like from The Sopranos, like a gangster,
Yeah.
and which happened to be her father. And she said, "This is my father's place." She said, "But we'd like you to come in, but be cool. As in, come and do your thing, but don't cause any problems."
Okay, fair enough.
So
Yeah.
I basically walked around this restaurant, and within an hour, I'd made it $80. And a woman
Amazing.
gave me a $20 tip.
Incredible.
And she said, "Where are you going next?" I said, "Montreal. Call me when you get to Montreal." So when I
That's
got to
outstanding.
Montreal, I stayed couch surfing a lot of the time in Canada.
Yeah.
Got to Montreal and I stayed in this woman's house. So she was an actress who was on the Montreal's version of Neighbours.
Amazing. That
So I
sounds
was
pretty
staying with
cool.
it, yeah. So it was like whatever I don't even know the name of the show, but
Yeah,
she was on
but
a
still.
TV show and she played an actress and her character. So the TV show was like whatever Montreal's version of Neighbours. That's what the TV show she was on. So I
That's
stayed with
class.
them, and I said, I think they let me use their phone, and I called the woman. I said, "Hi, it's Erin. I met you in Toronto." She went, "Hi, how are you?" Blah, blah, blah. She said, "Okay, I have this restaurant in town." She gave me the address, so I rocked up at this restaurant in the middle of Montreal. And this restaurant let me work outside of their restaurant making balloons for tips. So that was kind of like my day job. So I arrived in. So when I arrived in Toronto, I had to kind of like hustle a little bit to try
Yeah,
and
of
get to try
course.
and get to make money from balloons. But when I was in Montreal, I found somewhere, and then I went Montreal. Then I went to Ottawa, and then Ottawa. Oh, this was an interesting one. This is a really cool one. So I'm in Ottawa. I'm staying couch surfing, and I had about $10 left. I'd already dipped into my $150 stroke $300, sorry, £150 stroke euros, sort of $300 reserve fund my fund. So that was already, there's very little of that left. So I was already on the edge. So I'm in Ottawa. I remember this really well. I had $10 in my pocket. I had balloons, but I didn't. Again, I was in that predicament of like I didn't want to just do it on the street and get stopped by the cops. So I didn't know what to do. I was really nervous,
Of course, yeah.
and I was in a card shop, like a Hallmark, just a classic card shop. And I was walking around this card shop, and do you know in the 90s or in the 80s, you used to have these Christmas cards, and when you open the Christmas cards, you get like a jingle bells kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
noise when you open the card.
They should bring those
But this
back.
card This card had a card, but when you opened it, it was a Celine Dion was singing.
No way, that's incredible now. That is so cool.
So Celine Dion is from Montreal. She's from Canada. But when I was a child, I didn't live with my mum. Live with my grandma. I used to listen to Celine Dion to go to sleep. I used to listen to "My Heart Will Go On" from Titanic, and I used to put
Oh,
it on
legend
repeat
song, yeah.
to go to sleep. So I'm in Canada. I've got $10 in my pocket left. I have tiniest little bit of money in my bank, but it's not like I'm in Newcastle or in Ireland. It wasn't like I could call someone to help me out. It was like literally on my own. And so when I heard this music, the Celine Dion music, and I'd kind of had a tough day the day before,
Yeah,
hitchhiking,
of course,
and
yeah.
it just sort of broke me psychologically. I started crying in this shop.
Emotional release, yeah. It's just
Yeah, it was
powerful,
an
like,
emotional release. And
yeah.
what's that? What's that? The phrase or the lyric by Leonard Cohen.
Oh,
There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
that's so true. I love
I think
that saying
he
actually as
has a
well.
lyric like something like, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And so it broke me, but it opened me at the same time. So I walked around the corner and I saw this girl with dreadlocks. She had playing the guitar and she had a dog on the ground drinking out of a water bowl. And I said, "Are you busking?" She went, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you have a license?" She went, "No, man, I just get my guitar and I play." And I was like, "Whoa,
Free
cool." I said, "Well,
spirited, hey?
I'm a balloon artist. Is there any
Yeah,
way I can do my thing?" She went, "If you go down there, there's a market down there. They're always looking for people."
pretty
So
cool.
you walk. I walked down and I said, "Hi, I'm a balloon artist." She went, "Yeah, we love that type of stuff." She went, "We have busking pitches. You can only stay at up to 4 hours at each pitch, but as long as there's no one else there, you're free to go." So literally, I arrived. I was in Toronto. I was in Ottawa for 8 days couch surfing. I was able to make enough money to buy enough balloons for the next route, the next place, and then I went back to Toronto and I stayed with a woman who I met on the Camino.
Amazing.
And then I went from Toronto. I went to Winnipeg. I got a bus to Winnipeg. So I went across Canada on a bus across Canada. Um, so in Winnipeg, then I went to Regina. Um, then I went to a place called Banff, which is in the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, wow, incredible. Like,
And
yeah.
then I went to Kelowna. So Kelowna is in British Columbia. And when I was in British Columbia, my friend knew someone who owned a vineyard. He grew his own wine. And my friend had driven his converted school bus all the way from Toronto to British Columbia
That's
and had
incredible.
parked his school bus on this vineyard. And he said, when you go to Toronto, when you go to British Columbia, you're very welcome to stay on my school bus. So for the
That's
next
incredible.
sort of
Yeah,
six
amazing.
weeks, I stayed on this school bus. So I was in sort of the east coast of Canada for about a month, and then I made my way across the country, and then I stayed in British Columbia on a converted school course on an organic winery, and I became the kind of town's balloon artist for the next month or so, month or 5 weeks or whatever it was. So I would go down to the town, maybe 11, 12 o'clock in the day, have a coffee, and then I'd start busking on the streets. And anytime I go to the ice cream shop, I'd give the girls free balloons and I get free ice cream. And so I had great time had a fantastic time in Kelowna, which is British Columbia. But I kind of felt times a little bit lonely. I was
Mm.
on my own. I mean, I was meeting lots of people, but I felt it would be nice to do something a little bit different. So I went apple picking for a while down in a place called the Organ Valley in
Yeah,
British Columbia. There's obviously so many little stories that I could go into, but obviously, I
honestly,
can't
like,
tell
yeah,
every story. So I was in British Columbia. Then I came back to Kelowna, stayed with friends who I'd met through making balloons. It was really cool because I stayed with this woman called Jane. I'm still friends with Jane. She had kids now who are all adult children because 2009 is whatever 17 years ago. But at the time they were kind of toddlers and toddlers or maybe 8 or 9
yeah,
year
young
old.
enough, like, yeah.
And his son was called Santiago, and I stayed in their camper van one of the nights after a barbecue, and it was like kids get excited about small things. So they were like, "Hey guys," talking to their friends. They were like, "Hey
Yeah.
guys, do you know what happened last night? The balloon guy stayed at our house." So I was
You're
like,
famous, literally,
It was like
globally.
Santa Claus. It was like Santa Claus staying over, do you know? So and then I eventually got to Vancouver. I actually went with Jane and her family to Vancouver, and I stayed couch surfing in Vancouver with people that couch surf with me in Cork.
That is incredible.
So
Honestly,
that was really cool. And they were like, "Well, we don't have any furniture." And I said, "What do you mean you have any furniture?" They said, "We have a bed and we have a table and chairs. And apart from that, we have no furniture. And I said, okay, interesting. And I said, so basically they just moved in and it was in the summer. So, in the summer, you don't need much bedding.
Sure, yeah.
They had cardboard boxes with all their stuff in it. And so we flattened out some cardboard boxes, lay the
Improv.
cardboard boxes on the lay the cardboard boxes, put a sheet over the cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some cushions or some pillows.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I had like a shawl that I'd brought with me, a gift from friends. I actually have it here. I'll
Oh,
show
very
you.
good. Let's have a look. This will be good.
This is the balloon man blanket, and it's
Oh, that
spelled
is
with me
class. I
loads of
love
verses.
it. Yeah, look at that. That
So
is cool. It's like
this is the gift I got for my 25th birthday
amazing.
from some really good friends of mine, Kian and Joya, and
Shout out to them. So
yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
this was my the blanket that I used. So I had a bed made out of cardboard boxes in someone's house. So I stayed in Vancouver for 5 days. Then eventually I went to Vancouver Island, stayed there for another 8 days. I stayed with a random guy I met in a cafe. I met this guy in a cafe, and I had like, he called in America and Canada they call it a button, but it was just a badge, and the badge was it was a Mahatma Gandhi quotation, and the quotation was, "We need to become the change we want to see in the world."
I
So I
love
had this
that. Yeah.
badge
You
on,
want to change,
and
want to see. Yeah.
he pointed to my badge and he said, "I like your badge." I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well," I said, "I'm a balloon artist traveling across Canada." And he said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Come with me," and we went to this like they were cutting down some trees to
Hmm.
build a cinema, and there was like this protest meeting. He
Yeah.
said, "Come with me." And I said, "Oh, sure." I just
Why
in
not?
that way back then.
Yeah.
So I just jumped in his car with the guy, and as I left him, he said, "Here's my phone number, and if if you're stuck for somewhere to stay over the next little while, give me a call." So literally, I stayed in the hostel that one night, and then the next day I called him and I stayed with him, and for the rest of the time I was in Vancouver Island.
Seriously,
His
cool.
name is
Yeah.
Jerry. His name was Jerry. He was a vegan. He lived on avocados. Literally didn't eat anything else but avocados. He sounded like a character from Sesame Street. He
Okay.
sounded like Bert and Ernie.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
he was gifted money.
Yeah.
He was actually a Jewish guy, beautiful, really nice guy. He was gifted money um, by his family, so he didn't have to live. He didn't have to earn money. He was just living from his inheritance.
Yeah.
And what he spent his day doing every day, he'd ring up people that were on death row in America and
Okay.
ask for clemency for them.
Okay.
So
Wow. That's
he
pretty
he'd
big. Like,
literally ring up on a day, random some guy he didn't know who they were,
yeah.
ringing up to ask for clemency for Bob Jones or whoever it
Sure.
was.
Yeah. That's
It was literally
incredible.
going to be executed tomorrow or at 12
Yeah.
o'clock that day. He would ring up. So that was the guy I stayed with. So I stayed with him for a while, and then
Yeah. Interesting character as well. Like, yeah, no doubt.
yeah, and then I made my. Then as I remember coming back from Calgary, and the bus that was passing stopped, and on the bus it said "an Irish homecoming."
Oh, that is huge. The way it's like a
And
sign and alignment
so then
again.
I flew back. I flew back to Ireland in the 24th of October 2000 and was it 24th? Doesn't matter. It was October
Hmm.
2009. So it was July, August, September, and I flew back in October 2009.
So
So it was
even
across
longer
Canada.
than, yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So 3 months across Canada.
amazing. Literally,
Yeah.
like, honestly, like your
So
life,
yeah,
like I'm just listening to the whole thing and I could listen to you for hours actually, like
I
literally line
know.
by line. It's fascinating.
As, as my uncle sometimes says,
Yeah.
Aaron is a lovely lad, but he loves to talk. That's
I love
very
to
true.
listen. I'm sure everybody's listening. We're all intrigued. Like it's brilliant, honestly. Like your life is an adventure. Like it's the stories you have. It's incredible. So if anybody's listening in now or viewing away
Yeah.
and fascinated like I am, I'm just like absorbing it all. It's incredible, right? Do you have any projects that you're currently working on or anything as well, we'd say?
Yeah. So during COVID, I because I make a living as a balloon artist, I was in the lucky position that I was able to get government support, and
Yeah,
so
of course.
I couldn't work, but I didn't have to work at that time, so I was able to get the government support at that time. But I thought it would be really good to use my time. So in November
Hmm.
2020, I remember listening to, it was either a podcast or a tape that I listened to years ago, and the guy said, instead of you telling me what your plan is, show me your plan. He said, instead of you telling me what you're going to do, show me what you're going to do.
Okay,
He
I
said,
like that.
what's your plan for the next 90 days? So I said, okay, I am going to, this was the second or third time that I had to cancel flights because of various lockdowns, and I
Of course,
couldn't
yeah.
visit my family. So I had flights booked to the UK, and I couldn't go because of COVID
Yeah.
restrictions,
All the
and so I couldn't
flights.
go and see. I was meant to go and see my mom, but I didn't go at that time. So I remember it really really well, and I said, okay, I sat down and I wrote this 90-day plan out, and I said, okay, over the next 90 days, I'm going to write for 3 hours every day, but give myself one day off a week. So
Yeah,
because I
amazing.
wasn't working Saturdays or weekends, so my plan was to do Monday through to Saturday, and then I'd have Sunday off and then go again. And I also came across Stephen King's book. Stephen King wrote a book on, yeah, it's called Stephen King on Writing, a
Okay, yes.
memoir of the craft. Anybody who's curious about writing or would like to learn more about writing, it's phenomenal. The audiobooks, I must have listened to the audiobook over 10 times. It's a really nice audiobook. It kind of tells a little bit about his biography as well. But he talks about, writing between 3 to 5 hours a day. So I said, okay, I'm going to commit to writing. So, and I'd already done so much work on my book at this stage at that time anyway.
Yeah, it's
This was
amazing.
the real kind of like concrete commitment to do 3 hours of writing every single day, regardless of it. And now I didn't mean do 3 hours all at once. I could do 45 minutes, even watch a YouTube video or whatever, but then go
Yeah.
back to do another 45 minutes or do an hour and a half. But ideally you'd like to knock the head off of it in the morning, try and get it over an hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Well
Half done.
done. Like,
And
yeah.
because my schedule was kind of like very, it was COVID time, so I didn't really have a fixed schedule. So I wake up at 5 in the morning, I
Yeah.
go in and do an hour and a half, and then I go back to bed.
Yeah, why
And
not?
then, but as long as I got that 3 hours done, and so over the next 90 days, I did 3 hours writing every single day. And I was really strict. I never missed. And it was such a discipline to go, okay, no matter what, even during Christmas 2020, I had Christmas Day on my own. And so you'll say,
Yeah.
what are you doing having Christmas Day on your own? It was amazing because it was like, Aaron, do you want another drink? Aaron,
Yes.
what do you want to watch on TV? I mean,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love sharing time with other people, but that particular time was lovely to have time alone.
Of
And
course.
so
Yeah.
I gave myself Christmas Day off and I gave myself Stephen's Day off. But even when I went back to work after Stephen's Day, I added in the time that I took off for Stephen's Day. So I was so disciplined and so
You're really
focused.
focused. Yeah.
It was the most disciplined and focused that I'd been at that time. And so I really worked really hard. And at the end of February 2021, I had finished what they would refer to as a pass on a kind of a pass on my book. And then I took some time off in 2009, sorry, in 2021. I took some time off. But during the writing of my book, I lost some very close friends.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sadly, died by suicide.
Okay.
So I
Sorry.
think this
Yeah. It's
really,
tough.
I had the focus of the book, and then you had COVID, and you had so many
Yeah.
things going on. So there was like, I think I had the book as a focus.
Yes.
So I was able to
You.
kind of like put those situations aside at that time,
Yeah. To
but
keep you
then
going.
keep me going. And then sort of like June, July 2021, I did a much more in-depth edit of the book. I went right back through the book and did an edit of the book. When I say an edit, I did a personal edit. So what's called a beta draft, a
Yeah.
pre-edited draft.
Absolutely. Well done.
But then what happened was I actually kind of like I had a depression,
Oh,
this
sorry. Yeah.
depression kind of thing. No, it's okay. I came through it, but at the time I kind of had this like really big depression that I wasn't aware of, and I think it was partly to do with, losing some really close friends to suicide, which was really hard at the time. And I didn't necessarily process that. And, just I lost control of my car on the motorway. There was so many things that happened, and
Yeah,
I was just a bit lost. And then
of
I
course, cumulative.
slowly started to get myself back to, get myself back again mentally, and then COVID restrictions started changing. Then I got back into my balloon business, and then I
Excellent.
met my now fiance
Fantastic.
in,
Yeah. The happy stories. Yeah.
In June 2022. So me and Jennifer are now together nearly 4 years.
Amazing.
We're engaged and married. We got engaged and married on Christmas Day.
It's lovely.
We're getting married next year, so that's all
Hey,
good. But
congratulations.
thank you so much. So yeah, loads of positive things. But I think what happened with my book was I'd done all this really hard work, and I think that was
Yes.
I think there was a level of frustration from me because I knew what I went through
Yeah.
emotionally and discipline wise, and then sort of got back into my balloon career,
Yeah.
and
Apparently.
then just life got in the way.
Of
But the
course.
book is still there. The book is still
Amazing. Yeah.
there. It just needs I need to work with an editor to bring it to that next
Okay.
level.
So if there's
So at
any
the moment,
editors out there now, you never know. There could
so
be
at
an
the
editor
moment,
listening in.
or even I'd be even open to working with a retired English teacher who literally can
Absolutely.
help me to bring it to that next level. And then the idea would be to
Hmm.
self-publish my book. So there's a lot of work done on the book. The book has. It's not like I haven't written the book. I have written the book.
Yeah.
It just needs
Absolutely. Yeah.
an editor to bring it to that next level. And there will be a lot of work to be done there. But I once heard that. What did I hear? I heard these authors saying something like most published authors never publish their first draft.
Okay. That's
So
the saying. Yeah.
most published authors never publish their first draft, and most unpublished authors never write a first draft.
It's true, isn't it?
So, so it doesn't matter how good the draft is, just get a draft done. So I can definitely say that I've got more than a first draft done, and I haven't edited and I've reworked it 2 or 3 times. So I've definitely took it as far as I probably can on my own without
Absolutely.
getting.
Just
And what was great was I did. I had a reading group, so I had 10 people in the reading group, and everybody, including family members, everybody read it, said, "Wow!" They all wanted to know what happens next. So there
oh,
was
this is
a
good. I'm
sort of
excited now about this book.
an excitement to know more. And I suppose then life just got in the way, and the book is there, but I kind of went on the back shelf for a while. So I am excited to get back to the book and
Yeah.
get it out there.
It
But
now needs to
I
get on
suppose,
the actual
yeah,
shelves out there next, and all in divine timing, I
yeah,
suppose. But I'm
yeah.
excited about that now. So wishing you the best of luck with that now, and definitely, yeah,
Thank you,
I'll have to
thank you,
get a
Karen.
copy of that. Maybe a signed copy. Why not?
Thank you, of course, absolutely not a
100%.
problem at all.
No, it's
Not a
excellent.
problem at
And
all.
honestly, Erin, like, I mean, you do so much. I mean, obviously, from your journey, from the book, which I'm excited to read soon, from the poetry to the lens photography to like everything,
Yes.
literally, right? I'd say there's definitely more podcasts in the making. You're
Yeah,
going to be up
I
for another
really
one, you know?
that was great. I did this. So when I found that the 90-day challenge is really helpful. So I did in 2024. I did 100 days of walking, then I did 100 days of exercise, then I did 100 days of creativity. So I had all these like I think, and that's maybe even saying those things now.
Yeah.
I may need to do another 100-day challenge of some sort because I
I think
think
I might learn
I
from you
like.
as well.
Sorry.
I think I'll be learning from you to do the same myself. I'm going, yeah, that's actually a
Well,
good approach, you know.
I've done them before, but I haven't done them recently, so I need to get back to them. But that's okay.
And
That's okay.
yeah, and Erin, I suppose like for people who want to reach you, what would be the best way to contact you as well?
So my handles are Aaron the Balloon Man, AARON the Balloon Man, hotmail.com, gmail.com, and then there's Instagram and there's Facebook as well. So it's all that Aaron the Balloon Man. I'm on all the platforms at Aaron the Balloon Man. So AARON the
Fantastic.
Balloon Man.
Well, that's
Yeah.
excellent.
So
And
yeah,
yeah, and just I suppose to summarize as well now, because I know time-wise, but just keep an eye on the time for yourself as well. But
no problem. No
if you
problem. No
like, I
problem.
suppose is there anything really? I suppose three key points that you'd like to say to listeners, just three things you'd like them to take with them.
Follow your heart.
Yeah.
Be yourself. And find something in life that you would do for free. Is in
Okay.
find something in life that you do for passion, not necessarily for money. If you do something because you're passionate about it, the money will indirectly come. But if you chase the money first, I think do something that you have a passion for. Don't just do something because it's going to pay you. I mean, maybe get paid, as well, and then work on your passion. But do something that you're passionate about. So follow your heart, be yourself, and do something that you're passionate about.
That is incredible, honestly, Erin.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you
I'm
so
gonna
much.
finish. I'm gonna finish with one. I'm gonna finish
Yeah,
with one quote because I love this quote. So,
I'm
in
excited.
2006, I was in Galway and I met this woman. I met a storytelling night, and she said, "I want you to go." This is really strange. She said, "I want you to go to this house, and I'd like you to ring the doorbell and ask to read the quotation that's written on the staircase." So I was like, okay. So I went to this house on a rainy afternoon in Galway and rang the doorbell. And I said, "Hi, I'm here to read the quotation written on the staircase." And I remember there was a Polish girl with curly hair. She said, "Come in,"
Yeah.
as if this is a regular occurrence. You're the third person today come to read the quote. So in walked, and there was this, it was written inside like calligraphy on the wall. And it comes from a TV show called Northern Exposure. And I hope I get this right because I'm trying to do it from my mind. So
Yeah, go for it.
it, it, it's the coming back, the return, which gives meaning to the going forth. We don't always know where we've been until we get back to where we were. Only where we were may not be as it was because of who we have become, which is, after all, why we left.
Wow, that is incredible. What words to finish it, Erin. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
again,
so much,
oh,
Karen.
listen, it's been
Thank you so much.
incredible. And
I really
yeah,
enjoyed this. This is great. Thank you. You
thank
really
you.
give me a lot of inspiration as
It's been
well.
great. And just, I suppose,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
anyone listening in now or viewing as well, just a reminder again that you're all truly extraordinary as well in your own
Yes.
unique way.
Everybody is extraordinary. Everybody is unique and special. And even somebody who says, "I'm not an artist." I bet there are people out there say, "I'm not an artist and I'm not creative," but I bet they love putting furnishings on their sofa in a certain way, or they love, decorating their kitchen windowsill with oils or whatever it is. I think everybody has their own unique way of doing something. Like I remember you meet people who've got families. They have to be creative in making four meals for their family once a week, or 3 or 4, 5 times a week. So I think everybody has their unique talent and their unique skill, and
Absolutely.
so don't doubt yourself. Trust in yourself.
Trust yourself, don't doubt in yourself. And guys, till next time, keep it extraordinary, stay extraordinary.